Imagine day 30 of a war over Taiwan. By now, American naval munitions are likely beginning to run low, requiring resupply at sea and incurring significant logistical load. Weeks of loading, transit, and rearming have to occur, and that's just for one round of re-up. How do we speed up the process? One extremely interesting solution has been in the works since June 2021, when the U.S. Air Force established the Rocket Cargo Vanguard, one of 4 key long-term research programs for the Air Force. Since then, America's Air and Space Forces have been hard at work to understand how they can implement space rockets, or SLVs, into the most robust logistical challenge facing the 21st century Department of War. Several players are competing to be the rocket cargo supplier, including SpaceX, Anduril, and Rocket Lab. But I'd like to focus in on SpaceX today and the potential of using their Starship to deliver ordnance for the United States military. Now, for those of you who don't know, allow me to introduce you to Starship. Focusing in on the most current version, version 3, we can see the true enormity of what could be available here. 200 tons of payload to orbit, 10,000 tons of thrust, with 9 Raptor 3 engines pushing this 150-meter tall monstrosity into orbit. Starship's capabilities on paper aren't the only things to be impressed by. The uniqueness of Starship and all the SpaceX rockets lies in their reusability. SpaceX has proven its ability to reclaim its rockets after launch, catching them with this chopstick design shown here, or on drone ships in the middle of the ocean. Right now, reusable rockets means much lower cost for SpaceX, and in turn the customer. But in the future, it's going to mean higher frequency launches. Imagine multiple launches per day instead of per month. All this being said, we're still pretty far off for Starship. This would be a tested, reliable capability, likely in the next 3 to 5 years, so this isn't something months away. That fact aligns directly with the Rocket Cargo Vanguard's timeline though, so we can expect 2030 to be a safe bet for when Starship could begin being considered for logistic integration into the Department of War. Let's take a look at Starship's benefits when compared to current Department of War daily drivers. So, beginning with the C-17. Because of its adaptability, comparatively low operating cost, and airfield accessibility, the Department of War largely employs the C-17 for its intercontinental logistics. The C-17 can travel 2,400 nautical miles one way, hauling 77 tons of cargo. In comparison, the Starship obliterates the C-17's capacity with a 200-ton total payload. Looking at distance, the C-17 can travel 2,400 nautical miles, making transit from DoD logistical hubs on the west coast to Hawaii a comfortable journey, a journey that will be a requirement for any war against China. But from there, any C-17 will face a tenuous journey to Japan, Australia, or Korea, where the war will likely revolve. Comparatively, the Starship can bring 200 tons to orbit, which means that it can deliver a payload to its destination anywhere between minutes and months after launch, depending on the intentions of the customer. For example, with enough money, you could have a series of Starships on orbit at all times, just waiting for the call to deorbit and deliver a payload. Moreover, given enough time and planning ahead of time, launch from a US-based spaceport could see delivery overhead in less than 60 minutes after launch. Ironically, the time piece is really where we're going to have to start putting on our rose-colored glasses. While the C-17 can load and take off within hours, even SpaceX's most battle-tested rocket, the Falcon 9, takes days to weeks just to load. And that's not including the months or years of mission planning, scheduling, and FAA approvals required to launch this literal ballistic missile that's meant for peace into space. Looking at all this together, Starship offers around 233% larger payload capacity over the DoD's current aerial daily driver, the C-17. Further, Starship's distance is really infinite given enough time. But with a specific landing location in mind, delivery to the customer can happen less than 60 minutes after launch. Okay, I think it's time to get real and look at the constraints facing an aircraft versus a Starship. Let's start on the ground. Starship will absolutely need launch and landing pads dedicated to it. And these are robust, complicated pieces of infrastructure. A simple dirt clearing or concrete pad is not going to suffice. That means the landing location will either need a drone ship or chopsticks, neither of which have been widely deployed yet. Comparatively, aircraft can take off from any airstrip long enough to support their operation. An aircraft can even transit from its home base to where the materiel is and then take it off again for the final destination. Starship loading and launch all must occur at the same place. Transport, care and handling of space launch logistics introduces many challenges that airbound cargo doesn't contend with. Cargo pressurization goes way crazier when dealing with a vacuum, as you might imagine. Cargo aircraft typically pressurized to match 8,000 feet or 8 or 9 psi, whereas a spacecraft is going to pressurize to match sea level. This is almost double the PSI requirement at 14.7 psi. Also, if things go wrong in the air, an aircraft can just lower its altitude. A plane can simply fly to a human-appropriate height if air starts leaking from the cargo bay. Needless to say, a spacecraft doesn't have that option. Depressurization in non-pressurized cargo bays can cause catastrophic damage to one, the spacecraft, and two, they'll limit the types of cargo capable of space transport. Now, this is a direct shout to SpaceX, and that's the fact that reuse doesn't mean quick use. While a plane can land, load again, and take off in a matter of hours, a spacecraft delivering cargo is a one-and-done operation. Even though Starship is reusable, a single Starship won't be able to execute there and back again operations on the same timescale a C-17 could. In early years, cargo delivery via space is going to require high financial and time resources. Cargo cost per kilogram on a Starship is cheap when it comes to space, but it's going to be cost prohibitive when compared to a C-17. Payload alone, the Starship will cost $15 million to match the C-17's capacity and $40 million to max out the Starship's 200-ton capacity. That's at $200 per kilogram. In comparison, the C-17 costs roughly $150K for a nonstop flight from California to Hawaii. That's going to run about $2 per kilogram. With all that said, there are still some undeniable benefits to space cargo. The speed of cargo delivery once all the stars align, its global reach, and the independent nature, no fueling required, of rocket delivery could not be understated. With that in mind, there are a few niche areas where rocket cargo can quickly outpace a C-17. Let's start off with the most likely option. To me, that's going to be naval resupply. Bringing things back to the Taiwan conflict in day 30. The whole time we've been talking, those naval vessels just off the eastern coast of Taiwan have been waiting for us to get to the freaking point so they can begin their resupply. Let's look at their options. Option 1. They could boat over to Hawaii, where Pearl Harbor hosts resupply and repair facilities. It's going to be about an 8 to 12 day journey, depending on detours and loitering. This also doesn't include in-harbor resupply repair time. Option 2. They could transit to Japan, thinking Okinawa here, in roughly 12 or 24 hours. That's assuming Okinawa hasn't already been heavily targeted by the Chinese, and resupply is going to put these vessels out of commission for hours or days, making them sitting ducks in a very vulnerable Japanese harbor. Now you might know where I'm going with this, and that's option 3. The naval vessels could link up with a SpaceX drone ship and receive their payload from a Starship directly. That's 200 tons of military resupply in less than 12 hours. Really, the only timetable here is how fast the vessel can reach the drone ship. And the drone ship can relocate, making reacquisition and acquisition in the first place exponentially more challenging for enemy forces. Naval resupply via rocket delivery has lots of potential. landing adaptability, and benefit to the customer are unmatched by current aerial or naval methods. Now let's move to the most feasible option. I think this could occur in the near future. That's ally-to-ally logistics. Allied countries such as Australia, Japan, and South Korea have launch facilities Starship could feasibly conduct takeoff and landing operations from, given the unique infrastructure to support Starship is built. The main issue here is wartime resupply would be very vulnerable to enemy attack. This close to hostile air defenses, Starship may be shot down by surface-to-air missiles, and the launch location itself would be vulnerable to attack. That means peacetime resupply makes the most sense, but at that point, just use aircraft and ships. Okay, now I'd like to move into the far future, and this is the most awesome option. That's forward deployed resupply, and this might be a future that may never come, but I think it would be insanely cool to see. Now, screw the naval vessels, let's just send starships straight to Taiwan. And while we're at it, let's just put Marines on board too, so they can ODST drop them onto the beaches. This obviously has problems. Logistically, Starship can't land on Taiwan yet. Resource constraints mean the 24-hour or less vision of tactical resupply is very far afield for rocket cargo. Try 24 weeks or less. Of course, the hostile fire vulnerability applies here as well. A more realistic future would be to use Starship as a humanitarian relief vessel, delivering cargo to a disaster-struck region. Now, even that last possibility is still far-flung. The significant launch and landing infrastructure constraints apply here, and the mission planning and bureaucracy required for launch means supporting a spontaneous situation like a natural disaster is an unlikely potentiality for SpaceX. So what I'd like to do is I'll kick it back to you. You guys are way smarter than me, so I'll provide you with the general left and right bounds I've identified for a Starship use case, and you guys let me know what the possibilities are I missed. Number 1, Starship is incongruent with quick turn launches. Bureaucratic and mission planning requirements must be streamlined before even weeks to launch timelines are achieved. Number 2, this is a highly complex, non-compatible capability. No matter the mission, Starship will need to launch and land from a SpaceX facility. Finally, number 3, Starship will be very vulnerable to hostile fire. Use within range rings of enemy defenses introduces significant risk. Ultimately, AFRL's Rocket Cargo Vanguard opened my imagination to exciting and far-flung possibilities. But the logistics and financial constraints we face today just make this possibility unlikely and ineffective, I think, specifically for SpaceX. Even still, there are undeniable aspects to space-aided cargo that match niche military use cases, such as naval resupply. In time, I'm confident we'll see fleets of drone ships join the DoD as its logistics centers sprint into the new space age. If you would like to see more of this content or gain insights into how the private and public space sectors are playing together, subscribe for more.